As a video shooter, drone shots are fantastic, but DJI has released a lot of drones in the last few years. How are they any different? Why should I buy this one or the other one? We'll answer that and more in this review of the DJI Air 2S. Chris here from Videomaker. In this review of the DJI Air 2S, we're going to be talking about the differences between it and the Air 2 and the Mavic Pro 2. Then we're going to talk about the pros and cons, what we liked and what we didn't like about the drone. Then we're going to move on to its performance, how it did out in the field. And then lastly, if you should buy or you should not buy this drone. If you'd like to fast forward to any part of this review, there'll be time code in the description. If you plan to or already make money with your drone, you need to pass the FAA Part 107 test. That's why we've made an easy guide to passing the test, and you can get to it through this card here or through the link in the description. Now, let's get started. Okay, so let's get familiar with the Air 2S before we get any further. I'm gonna use my cheat sheet here, that way I don't forget anything. All right, it's got a 1-inch image sensor. It can shoot up to 5.4K video. It has a lot of safety features, including obstacle detection and avoidance, which we were pretty impressed by, and we'll have examples of that in a little bit. It can shoot HDR. It has D-Log, so if you have a higher dynamic range shot, you can shoot in log. It has the AirSense transporter, and then lastly, it has a half-hour flight time per battery. Of course, dependent on the amount of wind you have and how hard you're flying it. The main differences between the Air 2S and the Air 2 is really the camera and the obstacle avoidance. It's got a couple more sensors, so it's going to be a little more impressive maybe when it's flying forward, as well as you're going to get a better image quality. The Air 2S is a little bit heavier, but not much, and they're about the same size. Now, the camera, on the other hand, is very much like the Mavic 2 Pro. It is a 1-inch image sensor. Now, the Mavic has a Hasselblad camera. The Air 2S is not labeled that. However, the form factor is very similar, and we were really impressed by the image. But the Mavic Pro 2 is larger than the Air 2S. Pros and cons, it's pros and cons time. All right, pros and cons time. First thing, 1-inch image sensor. That's great, fantastic. DJI likes to cannibalize its prior models and putting in the technology. This is really cool. Definitely something that we just hope to see more and more of. Larger sensors are going to be able to give you a little bit better image quality than you can with the really small image sensors. Obstacle avoidance was amazing. It was really, really good. We were able to set the drone to follow and hands completely off the stick and walk through a bunch of trees, and the drone got out of the way. We were able to run away from it. Same thing. It was really impressive. And the tracking was super awesome because of that. And lastly, we really like the 5.4K video that allows you to have an oversampled image if you are producing in 4K. That way you have a little bit of extra wiggle room if you want to crop in, or you want to stabilize the shot, or what have you, or just have a sharper image when producing in 4K. Now let's talk about the cons. There's very little amount of internal storage. We have 8 gigabytes. That's great. It's probably about a half a flight if you're just rolling from the get-go. Maybe it's a little bit longer than that, but we would have liked to see more. I mean, like 32 or 64 gigabytes would probably get you through a few batteries, and you wouldn't even need to worry about your media, just making sure your camera was clear and that you offload it when you're done. That's really great on the consumer side. Obviously, if you are using it and getting it up in the air a lot, you're going to want to have media because you're going to have as many batteries as you possibly need to stay in the sky as long as possible. And our last con is that it's not compatible yet with the FPV goggles V2. And that's not a real big deal. Definitely in the digital imaging space, we haven't had that access to it for a long time, but having flown the FPV and having the goggles, it's really nice to be able to have the world blocked out, mostly so you can see what you're shooting. We were shooting in really bright sun, and it was just hard to see our cell phone. And really, depending on your cell phone is how bright that screen's gonna be. So we really wish that those goggles were available, because then we could really be focused in on our shots and where we're flying, instead of being concerned about the glare on our controller. All right, so now let's talk about the performance of this drone. Now, every DJI drone I've ever flown, which is just about every release they've had over the last 5 years, has the same experience when you're flying it. The menu feels the same, the controls feel the same. They have a very controlled experience across the full breadth of their drones. The obstacle detection was just amazing. We talked about that a little bit, But here's the situation. So we wanted to test the tracking. And so we got a longboard out and we decided to go to a park and have it fly around. And that was kind of okay, except for there was other people around and we felt uncomfortable flying around them. And even though they were totally okay with us being there and we were in a designated area that was totally fine to fly with, we just wanted to be a little more open. And so luckily it's a big giant field. And so my buddy Brandon, who has been a friend of the show for a while, he is also a drone pilot. And I had him go out and I was like, okay, I want to do the point of interest orbit around him. And so we did that a little bit and he's like, is this tracking me right now? And I said, I think it is. And so he starts running and it keeps orbiting him and follows him while he's running. And that was just really impressive. As soon as he slowed down enough for it to continue to orbit more, it tracked him very quickly. It was super impressive. So that got us thinking, well, can we just be completely hands off and have it track it through a bunch of low hanging trees? And this is something that you might be uncomfortable flying even with your controls because it's a tight area, a lot of low branches and a lot of contrast for the drone to get confused. And no big deal. Running through these trees, it was following him. It was getting out of branches. It was really great. Really, the only thing we saw that it didn't detect was a chain link fence. We didn't fly into it, luckily, but we tested it against one. It saw the poles, the uprights, and the horizontals, but it didn't see the chain link fence, which was pretty interesting. However, when we were in a little dome area, it did tell us that there was something above us and in front of us, which was really impressive. The quick shots, as always, are always really helpful. I think that, those are going to be probably the bread and butter of someone that's using this as a production tool. You're getting your establishing shot, whatever you're doing, these moving shots, really the point of interest orbit is going to be one of your most helpful shots, but that you're able to get these quick shots. They're super awesome, super tight, very easy to execute and no big deal. And then lastly, there's this master shots, and master shots is really all of those quick shots put together. So you can kind of have it do a couple shots and you'll just have kind of a section of shots to choose from. As well, it edits those down and makes a little montage for you of all your shots together. I honestly think for me, it'd be like, I'd do that if I was doing a vlog or something. It'd be really great stuff to cut away to. And it does it just automatically and just goes in. We'll get those shots for you, which is pretty neat, especially as a one-person show like I am a lot of times. However, you can't shoot in D-Log when you're shooting in master shots. Kind of a bummer, but I think the idea there is more that it's ready to deliver right now than it is to make you some kind of high-end thing. If you're really trying to be deliberate and you needed to shoot in D-Log because you have a high dynamic range shot or something like that, it makes more sense that you probably wouldn't be doing the all autonomous flight. You probably have a lot more control. Before you buy this drone or any other drone, make sure you've passed the FAA Part 107 test. And we have an easy guide to passing it right here. Just click on the card there or the link in the description and you'll be able to get it right now. So the question is, should you buy or should you not buy this drone? Now, we really liked it. I was super impressed. I was not expecting to be blown away by this drone, but it did everything I wanted it to do. It was easy to fly. All of the functions of tracking and obstacle avoidance worked the way you'd expect them to work. They're very intuitive to use. Really, overall, this drone was really fantastic. The battery life was great. Of course, make sure you buy the ready to fly setup. You're going to need multiple batteries. You're never going to be satisfied with just one battery, so you might as well get it with the drone. Comes with ND filters as well, which are super helpful for shooting in bright sun, which you almost always are when you're flying a drone. And that way it doesn't have to crank the shutter speed to let the less amount of light in. We really liked it. It's a pretty good price. It's small, so you can take it out and take it with you on a backpacking trip or whatever without having a lot of concerns. And it's really, super easy if you're taking it out on the production, as it comes with a little bag if you buy the ready to fly kit, and really you're off to the races. So really, if you're on the fence here, is it better than the Air 2? Yeah. You're going to get a better image. It definitely has the better obstacle avoidance, which is going to be really helpful if you're really trying to use that tracking in places you might not have control of or be able to see. I wouldn't hesitate at all to recommend this drone for anyone that's looking for a compact drone that does high professional quality video, but not so high as, you know, something that maybe going to be on a narrative film or something like that. But absolutely a really fantastic drone. As always, like, comment, and share. We want to know what you think. For everyone here at Videomaker and for myself, thanks for watching, and we'll catch you next time. Bye-bye. All right, so here's the end page. You now have two choices. You can either have the video that YouTube has chosen for you or the video that we have chosen for you. Hopefully either one of them is good, but you never know. They could change your life or not. Thanks for watching. Bye.